The recording started with a shaky breath. "Say it again." Mira whispered. Captain Elias Stone sat in the dark briefing room, lit only by the blue glow of the holomat. Outside the ship, the void was quiet. Inside, every human heart on the hidden station seemed to be waiting on his answer. "They voted," he said. "Every major species, every council. The verdict is final. Humanity is exiled from the galactic network, effective immediately." No one spoke. The thin metal walls hummed with a distant vibration of engines and life support. Somewhere far below, a maintenance bot clanged against a pipe. It sounded too loud in the silence. Mira swallowed. "They cast us out. After everything we did in their war." Elias stared at the map. The galaxy hung there like a slow-turning storm. Trade routes, relay gates, council worlds of reline glowed in soft colors that used to mean possibility. Now they looked like locked doors. "They feared us," Elias said quietly. "They took our science, our soldiers, our sacrifice. But they never trusted what we might become if we were left inside their cage." On the map, a tiny point blinked at the very edge of known space. Earth, cut off, quarantined, ringed by warning beacons. "So that's it?" Mira asked. Her hands shook as she poured herself recycled coffee. A small, stupid, human thing. "We just go home and grow old on a dead economy." The captain finally looked at her. His eyes were tired, but there was something hard burning behind them. "No," Elias said. "We go home and do what humans always do." "And what's that?" she asked. He reached out and dragged the holomap wider, pulling it past the known routes, into the dark between spiral arms. "We adapt," he said. "We disappear, and then we build something they can't even imagine." Elias had expected riots when they returned to Earth. Instead, the planet went quiet. Orbital traffic thinned. The last alien freighters left without a word. The great relay gate above Luna shut down, its ring lights fading one by one like dying eyes. News feeds filled with angry speeches, then with questions, then with long, aching silence. In that silence, something else began. The old shipyards along the equator woke first. Long-abandoned dry docks flickered with fresh power. Rusted cranes lifted again, creaking like giants who had slept too long. Engineers who once designed civilian haulers now worked behind sealed doors under military contracts that did not officially exist. Myra walked through one of those yards. On a grey morning, hands buried in her jacket pockets, wind tugging at her hair, a half-built hull stretched out above her like the skeleton of some metal whale. "They're serious," she murmured. Beside her, an older man in oil-stained coveralls nodded. His name was Garrow, once chief designer for a council-approved frigate line. Now he served something that had no logo, no anthem, no name. "They took our seat at the table," he said. "So we're building our own table. Bigger." She stopped under the hull and looked up. "A fleet." Garrow shook his head. "A seed, something that can carry more than guns. Industry, cities, memory. You think small. Pilot." The captain thinks larger. That evening, in a bunker carved under a forgotten mountain, Elias stood before a room of officers, scientists, and leaders from a dozen Earth nations. There were no flags behind him. Only a plain wall and a simple sentence glowing on the screen. "We build where they cannot see." Elias tapped the console. A projection filled the room. One single titanic structure drifting in deep space. Not quite a ship. Not quite a station. "Our exile is not an end," he said. "It is cover." The project moved off-world before most of the planet even knew it existed. They called the chosen region the Hollow Reach, a stretch of space the council charts labeled as economically irrelevant. No trade routes, no habitable worlds, no stable gates. Just drifting ice, dark rock, and the faint whisper of an old, thin nebula. Perfect. Hidden convoys slipped out from Earth under the excuse of deep space research. Old haulers were gutted, refitted, then sent one by one toward the Reach with sealed instructions. What they carried was not just machinery. They carried people who could keep secrets. Mira watched the first convoy depart from the observation deck of the carrier. Below, Earth glowed blue and soft. A memory already trying to become a story. You could still stay, Elias said beside her. She smirked. And miss the part where we break the galaxy's pride. Not a chance. He didn't smile back. His gaze stayed on the disappearing ships, on the bright trail of their drives as they burned for the darkness. Breaking them isn't the goal, he said. Surviving them is. The journey to the Hollow Reach took weeks at full burn. Out here, the stars looked sharper, colder. Ships traveled in radio silence, running dark. When the convoy finally dropped into the chosen sector, the scene waiting for them stole Mira's breath. A hidden scaffold already floated there, wrapped around a captured asteroid. Dock arms reached out like the ribs of an unfinished colossus. Swarms of drones crawled over its surface, carving tunnels and fitting structure. Welcome to Crown Zero. Garrow's voice crackled over the cum. Pride and exhaustion colored every word. Home of whatever we're about to become. As Dawnline eased into dock, Myra pressed a hand to the window, feeling stupid for the gesture, but doing it anyway. If they can't see us, she whispered, they can't limit us. Years blurred. Crown Zero became Crown Station. Then simply, the Crown. Metal grew around rock, spreading outward in layered rings. Habitats bloomed like lanterns, each one holding streets, markets, and homes carved from careful compromise. Children learned to write under ceilings that hummed with reactor power. They grew up hearing two histories, the one the council recorded, and the one their parents whispered over dinner. Myra became commander of the Crown's defense wing, almost by accident. She knew how to fight in empty space. She knew how to read the moods of pilots who joked too loudly before a mission. She knew when to shut off the recorder and just listen. One cycle. During a routine patrol at the edge of the Reach, her squad picked up a flicker on long-range scans. Could be a stray rock, one pilot muttered. Rocks don't broadcast, Mira said. Tight beam, faint. Not ours. They tracked the signal to a small, battered freighter limping through the dark, its engines stuttering. It wore no council markings. Its transponder code was scrubbed. The slaver ship tried to run when they approached. It never got the chance. Mira's squad moved with quiet, ugly efficiency. They disabled engines, hacked the locks, and boarded with practiced rage. The prisoners they found packed into its holds were from a dozen minor species, all technically protected by the same council that had exiled humanity for being dangerous. When the rescued captains realized who had saved them, their fear was almost funny. You're human, one whispered. Myra wiped blood from her cheek with the back of her hand. Don't spread it around. They brought the survivors to the Crown. Laws were drafted that same week, rough and simple. No slavery in human space. No tribute. No council licenses. Word began to move through the hidden routes between desperate captains and forgotten colonies. There was a place in the dark, they said, where humans ruled on where the weak were not for sale. The rumor reached the council long before they admitted it was real. At first, it was just scattered. Reports from the Rim, pirate nests going silent, black market routes suddenly safe, slave rings burned out overnight. Captains spoke of a shadow jurisdiction that enforced its own laws with surgical force. They mentioned ships with strange signatures, flying without transponder codes. Bearing no flag, someone finally traced every sighting back toward the same empty quadrant on the map. The Hollow Reach. By then, the galaxy had a larger problem. A chain of relay gates collapsed within months of each other, like lights popping in a storm. An old threat, once thought dead, tore its way back into known space, self-replicating machines from a forgotten war, eating stations, worlds, and fleets with the mindless patience of rust. In the high chamber of the council, representatives argued around a floating projection of growing red scars. We do not have the numbers, one admiral said, and we do not have time to grow them. Then we conscript, another snapped. From where? A third asked. The worlds you bled dry last war. The colonies that already hate you. No one spoke the other answer aloud. The species they had thrown away. On the Crown, the news feeds played on every screen. People watched in ship lounges, in workshops, in market stalls that smelled of oil and spice. Footage of burning stations reflected in dark human eyes. Myra found Elias on one of the outer decks, staring at the stars where the next gate collapse was predicted. "They're losing," she said, double quotes yes. She waited. "We could stay out of it." He didn't nod. He didn't deny it. The years had carved new lines into his face, but his gaze was sharper than ever. "We could," he said. "But remember why they feared us, Mira. It was never because we were crueler." She leaned on the rail beside him. "You're thinking of helping them." "I'm thinking," Elias said slowly, "that history is giving us a very loud stage." The machines hit the Council's core worlds 2 months later. They poured from broken gates in cold grey waves, eating stations and defense lines with steady, patient hunger. Fleets scrambled, formations broke, and the proud worlds that once judged humanity sent out the same desperate call. Any ally, any help, on every tactical board, a new contact appeared. It rose from deep space like a moving continent, one vast structure with engines burning blue at its heart, wrapped in rings of escort ships. No transponder code, no council ID, just a single word on its hull, in harsh human letters, "Crown," on the bridge of the council's last battle group. The admiral watched as a channel forced itself open. A human face looked back at him. "This is Crown Sovereign Elias Stone of the Human Reach," he said. "You're about to be flanked on Vector 9. Pull your cruisers back 3 degrees unless you want them shredded with the machines, human." The admiral whispered on the Crown's command deck. Mira stood at Ilias's shoulder as human guns spoke in full view of the galaxy. Rail lancers carved tunnels through the swarm. Focused singularity charges cracked their cores. Shapes that had devoured colonies vanished in sheets of clean white light. Across 100 systems, feeds, cut to the same impossible site, humanity. Not asking to return, but arriving as a single, disciplined empire. When the last machine husk drifted cold, a summit was called on the Crown. Elias faced the assembled delegates in a plain hall. "You cast us out," he said. "We did not kneel, we built. We guarded the people you called acceptable losses. Today, you saw what that became." A thin representative cleared her throat. "Do you seek to rejoin the council?" Mira almost laughed. Elias only smiled. "No," he said. "You will keep your council. We will keep our empire. From now on, when humans appear in your sky, you will not ask if we're allowed to be there." He let the pause hang. "You will ask which side we already chose."